What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
I would venture that some of these people have eaten strange things and not even known about it. I have a few things to say about that. What's up, happy campers? Welcome to another amazing and freaky episode of Camp Town Hall.
What's up? All right, I'm ready. I've been thinking about it all week, kind of prepping in my head not to get grossed out. I'm ready for what you have to say.
You've been prepping in your head, but have you been prepping in your stomach? When was the last time you've eaten? You may not.
I had lunch.
You may not have that food with you much longer. No, I'm going to try to keep it to where it's not going to make everybody just throw up everywhere.
It could be like that scene from Stand By Me.
No, we will not have.
Like the Barfarama.
No Barfarama, please. No, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some crazy food facts, some things that are just like things we don't even know that we may partake of every day in our everyday life, and just some fun things you may not have known at all about food. So we're going to be talking about that. Here's the thing. Food is a huge part of our lives. Most of us consume something, every day, whether by eating or drinking, but there's some amazing things about food and how, it's made, what we eat, some just crazy things that are worth noting. So today we're going to learn some freaky food facts.
It's going to be edutainment. Is it how you said it? Edutainment?
It's going to be edutaining.
I'm ready.
Edutainment at its best.
Ooh.
You're going to learn something. You're going to laugh. You might cry.
You're going to have an emotional reaction.
You might gag. And it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this together. And by the end of this, we're going to learn some amazing things about food.
Well, come on, Professor. Let's go. I'm ready to learn.
All right. I'm going to start off with some easy, some tame things, Good. And then we'll work our way up to the harder bits.
Okay.
All right? Let's go all the way back to the beginning of food. Okay. So in the beginning.
Like in Genesis 1:1 beginning?
Genesis 2.
Okay.
The garden. It's very interesting because obviously food is a big part of everyone's life, like I said. And one of the first living quarters of the first humans recorded in the Bible were...
What's a garden?
It was a garden. They were in a garden of Eden, and so they, their jobs basically were to eat and hang out with animals all day long.
Nice. I could totally get behind that.
So that was it. But what happened? Something went wrong. What did they eat?
Do you want the kid answer or the real answer? I'm going to give you the kid answer.
You give me what people typically say.
They ate an apple.
They shouldn't have eaten that apple.
They ate an apple.
They shouldn't have eaten that apple because that apple caused them... No. I'm sorry, this is wrong. They ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
So where did we get the whole apple mix-up?
Well, I think one of the things, at least, what I thought was that it's just a common fruit. It's fairly common. Apples are in like every store, and so people are just like, oh, that's common. And so comic strips or whatever would do like a spoof of that. They would just they'd pick the most common fruit, an apple, and they're like, okay, it's an apple. But I think there's actually a literary and a linguistic reason why there was some confusion, and people do think it literally says that there was an apple that they shouldn't have eaten.
Okay.
It all goes back to Latin. Now, I don't know Latin. Okay?
I was going to say.
I know zero Latin. I'm going to read some Latin words, and I'm probably going to butcher. So if you're a student of Latin, please forgive me. But no, so what happened was when they were translating the Hebrew into Latin, they were talking about, the fruit of good and evil and all that.
Right.
Well, the Latin word for apple is malum. M-A-L-U-M, but it's pronounced malum. And so, but the Latin for evil is spelled the same way, but it's pronounced malum. So there's probably a little accent mark over it that's different. So it's malum or malum. And so whenever they were talking about the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it could have been the knowledge of good and apple. So it's possible, and some experts believe that's why commonly we think it was the apple, is because the word is very similar to evil, which a lot of kids, when their parents tell them to eat their fruits and vegetables, probably kind of come along those lines. They're like, no, apples are evil.
No, can't do it.
So they were the original. If I were to pick any kind of produce as evil, though, it'd be cauliflower. I mean, that's just... Oof.
I did feel that way about cauliflower, but I had a friend recently that made it, and it was actually delicious. So I think I could give it one more chance.
Good. Yeah, I had it. It was good. They roasted it.
I would
one
more chance.
Very good. It did not taste like cauliflower, which is funny because it's like, It's cauliflower. That's what it's supposed to taste like. But because it didn't, I liked it. It's kind of how few people feel about fish a lot of times. They're like, I like fish.
It didn't taste
It was
fishy.
good because it didn't taste fishy. Then it's like, well, then it was a
You don't
a
like
bad
fish.
fish then because it didn't taste like fish.
What people are really saying is they like garlic and butter.
Yeah, and tartar sauce. Lots and lots of tartar sauce. Or if you're going the British style, lots of malt vinegar, which is what I put on a lot of fish. Okay, so we're not actually going to talk about cauliflower today. It's not making the list of freaky foods, other than just now when we talked about it. But we are going to keep talking about apples a little bit because I got some really interesting facts about apples that I didn't know about.
I love apples.
I love apples too. I mean, apples are great. Here's a fun fact for you though. Did you know that apples are a part of the rose family?
Like rose the flower?
Like the flower rose. They are somehow a part of the rose family.
So it could be I give you a dozen roses or I give you a dozen apples?
Coming Valentine's Day, I'm getting you a dozen apples, baby. That's right. That's right. Men, I just totally redeemed your relationship with your significant other. Buy a dozen apples.
Or not.
Actually, don't. That'll seriously end you in the doghouse. Because that's like saying, it's like an insult to possibly the way they eat and to their diet and nutrition. So don't stick to the flowers. Even though an apple a day
keeps the
doctor away, which is a common phrase. It doesn't really necessarily ring true. So don't factor in because I eat apples, I don't have to go to the doctor. So just FYI on that. Here's another crazy thing: the largest apple ever picked weighed 3 pounds and 2 ounces.
No way.
That's more like, I don't know what 3 pounds. That's like a coconut.
That's huge.
It's huge, massive apple. So that's the largest apple. I thought that was pretty interesting about that. And so we're gonna shift gears here. That's the apple talk. We might get back to apples in a little bit. But it got me thinking about fruit and there's lots of fruit that people like. And there's, lots of fruit and there's tons of variety. Apples alone have like dozens of varieties.
I always get confused on which one's the good one.
What's your favorite?
I don't know.
So you don't even remember?
Honeycrisp.
I think you like the Honeycrisp.
Are good. I don't like them when they're mealy though.
That's a word that I don't like them when they're mealy. You mean because they fill you up too much? It's like they're an entire meal. It's a texture thing.
Yeah.
Watermelon are mealy, right?
I don't like watermelon either.
So it's that gritty. It's kind of like there's a sort of a grit to it. We just bought some apples, and they were like on the chart. They were like crispy enough. They were also sweet enough.
But they're mealy.
But they are mealy, and so we're eating them with lots of peanut butter. The peanut butter is helping with the mealiness. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Some apples are mealy and some are not. But it's weird. There's so many varieties of apples alone, let alone the rest of the fruits in the world. So I decided to look up how, throughout the world, what the most produced fruits are. Okay. So we're talking about metric tonnage throughout the a year, what produces the most. And so it's kind of like what we're eating the most of, basically, because this is what we're producing the most of. So I checked with worldatlas.com. By the way, I'm going to use a lot of website references because I may be wrong, but I'm shifting all blame to these websites because if you're like, that's not a true fact, I know because I'm an appleologist.
I wouldn't be an appleologist.
So according to worldatlas.com, what is the most popular fruit ever? What fruit is grown more metric tonnage than any other fruit?
Bananas. Bananas are everywhere.
That's true. Bananas are great. See, when I was looking up, I would have been totally apples because there's, like I said, there's 20 some variety of apples. Actually, I think there's thousands of varieties of apples. I remember hearing something.
Yeah, but bananas, I don't know. They just seem like they're grown
We're
everywhere.
both wrong. We're both wrong.
Oranges.
And the nerds are right. Tomatoes. You ever have that nerdy friend that when you're talking about fruit, they're like, dude, but by the way, a little known fact that tomatoes are a fruit. And you're just like, can I punch you now? Or give you the wedgie? What are we going to do? How are we going to solve this? Because
you're sort of my nerdy friend.
I know. And I'm like, come on, it's tomato. I get it. Well, in the culinary realm, they consider it a vegetable. But scientifically, it's considered a fruit. But then so are cucumbers, if we're going to go that way. So there's a lot of things we could call fruit because basically it's a seed-bearing. Right. That's what makes it a fruit. So anyway, zucchini, that we could call that fruit. But anyway, so tomatoes technically are, because tomatoes are in everything.
That's true.
They're in your pizza. They're on your pizza.
Yum.
They're in your pasta. They're in your
Yum.
ketchup. They're in your barbecue sauce. They're
Yum.
in so many things. They're on your salad. So
I'm hungry now.
sorry. Don't worry. I will ruin your appetite for you very soon.
Oh.
Don't worry. So tomatoes are number 1, but you are correct. Number 2 is bananas.
Yes!
Bananas are them, and they are.
I don't
they're
like bananas though.
my favorite.
They
They're
make
my
me
favorite.
sick.
I know you know you don't dislike them. You just don't tolerate them.
Well,
You are intolerant.
they
to
give me a
bananas.
tummy ache.
That's true. You should not eat banana unless it's like baked into a loaf of bread.
Then I can
banana
eat
bread
it.
is great, or banana nut muffins.
Delicious.
Just bananas themselves give you
Not
a tummy
good.
ache. Don't eat them. But I love bananas, so we always have bananas. And then I'm very economic and efficient with it because I eat the banana. Waddles eat the banana peel. The only thing that's left over at the end of the banana session is a stump, like the stem.
Banana session.
It's just the stem. That's it. Waddles has the skin. I eat the banana. It's a great relationship we have.
I
It's
can
a very
imagine you and
symbiotic
Waddles like
relationship.
sitting down. All right, we're having a banana session.
All right, number 3. Guess what it is?
Well, it's not bananas.
Yeah.
Oranges.
Nope. Oranges aren't even in the top 5, unfortunately.
Oh, seriously?
No. Watermelons. Watermelons.
Watermelon's number 3.
I would have never guessed. But here's my theory on that, and it doesn't say in worldatlas.com why. My theory is because they're so big. And like just to produce like the sheer number of them, they don't make a lot of, there's very few bite-sized watermelon.
I've never seen a bite-sized
I've
watermelon.
seen like the size of a cantaloupe. That's about as small as I've seen a watermelon. Those small seedless ones you can eat. Maybe a giant, a little bit bigger than a softball. But
I want to know who the first person was that saw a watermelon and thought, I can eat that. Because you have to take basically an axe or a meat cleaver to get into the thing. I mean, that would have deterred me, but someone persevered.
Hey, there are harder foods to get into than that, and people
right.
like a coconut. Who would have thought to eat a coconut?
I don't know.
It's got like 3 different shells on it. I mean, it's crazy.
I want to meet the first person that thought to eat any food, like mushrooms.
Yeah, or the first person to discover not all mushrooms are edible.
That's true.
That person obviously is not alive anymore.
Watermelon is
Watermelon's
number 3.
Now number 4 is apples. Finally, we get to number 4.
Watermelon beat apples?
I know. I didn't, and I would have figured like tropical fruit, like mangoes or something, because mangoes are like worldwide, and they are like among the most spread out kind of, but they're just not as many.
I don't like those either.
And then number 5, a close number 5, was grapefruit.
Grapefruit and watermelon are in the top 5?
Yeah. It's the things you would have never thought.
Are you sure you
I would have thought.
read that right?
I would have thought apples, bananas, oranges, cherries, strawberries.
Blueberries.
You love blueberries, but it doesn't mean the world over. Although there are
They
some great health
should.
benefits to blueberries.
Blueberries are the best.
Nobody's freezing watermelon and putting them in the freezer section at Walmart. You don't see frozen watermelon in Walmart, do you?
That's true.
No. But for some reason, it's up there. It's number
I'm going to
3.
go look now at all the frozen fruits just to see.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's interesting.
You don't see frozen apples, though, either, do you?
No,
They're
some,
freeze
I think
dry.
some foods just won't freeze. Berries you can freeze, but you don't see frozen oranges or anything like that. We should try it sometime.
Now, that's an experiment for you to do at home.
There you go. Let us know how that works out. All right, we're going to shift gears. We're going to get away from fruit. We're just going to go to a few fun things. There's a website called spoonuniversity.com, which I'd recommend checking out because it has a fun food fact for every state. So whatever state you live in, it has a fun food fact about your state that you live in. So we live in Missouri, so I thought, well, I'm going to look at that one. And I love the fun food fact about Missouri.
Is it good?
Yes, Missouri is the home of the world's first ice cream cone.
Come on, Missouri.
World's
Seriously?
first ice cream cone, yeah.
Way to go,
Not
us.
ice cream, but putting it in a cone. I want to find out where. It didn't say where, like specifically, but how cool would that
But
be?
that's so smart because you can now enjoy the ice cream and the walk, and then you just eat it all, and there's no trash.
You have no trash, yeah.
Brilliant, Missouri.
So I thought I'd look at a few more, but I wanted to just give you one more that just tickled me pink, okay, on multiple levels. You know how most states, and I'm picking on our next door neighbors in Oklahoma. We love you, Oklahoma. I have several friends from Oklahoma.
Right.
They're great people. But every state has its like skeletons in its closet, and I think that what you're gonna hear is the Oklahoma skeleton in the closet.
Seriously.
Okay, so you know how most have like a state bird, a state fruit or vegetable and things like that.
Yeah.
Oklahoma has a state meal.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, it is an entire meal that defines its state. Are you ready for it? It's not a small meal. It's not like burger and fries. It's not like pizza. It's not even like steak and potato. It's multiple things.
What is this meal?
Fried okra, squash, cornbread, barbecued pork, biscuits, sausage and gravy, chicken fried steak, black-eyed peas, grits, corn, strawberries, and pecan pie. They need to add like an EKG or something, or like the defibrillators to that menu.
That's Thanksgiving.
That is more than I eat in Thanksgiving. But here's the funny thing about this list. The thing that is missing on the list is actually Oklahoma's state vegetable. That's what's missing from this list. Even though there are a lot of things listed,
okay,
I would have guessed corn, but corn and grits are part of
Okay, so
this.
they had okra and squash.
Black-eyed peas.
Black-eyed peas.
3 kinds of corn. Cornbread, grits, and corn.
Green beans?
Nope. Oklahoma's state vegetable is the watermelon. I'm sure they're probably the reason, like the Oklahomans are like, it's our state vegetable, we're going to buy them up. That's why they're number 3. The Oklahomans are like, we're going to keep that vegetable, the watermelon.
It's not a
No, I looked up, they had a resolution. I read the state resolution to adopt watermelon as the state vegetable, and that is the verbiage it used, watermelon and state vegetable. So, Oklahoma, you may need to write your congressman about this. I'm sorry. It's just... Apparently, that it was probably in response to those nerds that say, well, a little known fact that tomatoes are a fruit. And they're like, well, guess what? Watermelon's a vegetable. Oklahoma said so. Take that, you science guy.
Wow, that's so... I can't get over the fact that they have a whole meal.
They have an entire state meal. Makes you want to move to Oklahoma, doesn't it?
Can we just have that for dinner one night? I just want to see what it's like to eat I
think that would be an entire day's worth of food for me. But okay, let's give it a go.
What are you doing for dinner? Oklahoma state meal.
We're going to do tour to Oklahoma. And then for dessert, we're having watermelon just to have fun.
No, you have to have strawberries and pecan pie.
But we're going to have watermelon too.
Is it pecan or pecan? Pecan.
It's pecan.
Pecan?
Pecan pie. No, trust me, I know. I also knew that tomatoes were a fruit, so you've got to trust me on this.
You are my nerd.
All right, now we're going to get some really freaky ones. Those are some tame ones. They're fine. But now we're gonna amp it up. We're gonna take it up a notch.
You're bringing the freaky into the food facts.
That was fun facts. Now we're getting into freaky facts.
I'm ready.
You ready? Are you sure?
I hope so.
Once we go down this road, there's no turning back. But it's worth sticking around for because there's some crazy things you're gonna hear.
Dude, I'm ready.
Okay. Now you think about, we live in America, and later on we're gonna be talking about some of the crazy foods that other cultures eat.
Right.
And I've experienced some of those, and you've experienced some of those. But we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But right now, we're talking about American food.
Okay.
Because we have laws that keep Americans safe.
Yes.
We have the FDA that makes sure that our food is safe to eat by making strict rules and regulations to make sure our food is safe to eat. But they have allowances that kind of disturb me a little bit.
So then not so strict.
Yeah, it's like you're wondering, why are they allowing this in my food, period? But they have allowances for certain... Now, granted, it's got to be very small amounts. So if the amounts elevate into any, perceivable amount to where it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of whatever this is in there, we got to pull this.
So it's like 0.0000.
Yeah, but it still allows it. And so that's the disturbing part. I'm not going to get into the parts per million or parts per gallon or whatever. I'm just going to say these things are allowed, granted in small quantities, but knowing that it's in your food might make you think a little bit twice about it. But here's the thing, okay? So don't get mad at me. I'm just the delivery boy. Second of all, you've already eaten these things and lived, okay? So knowing that you may continue to eat these things, you're going to be fine.
It's fine.
It's going to be great, okay? You ready?
I hope
These
so.
are things the FDA allows in your food in small parts per million, per gallon, whatever.
I'm ready.
Insect parts.
Yummy.
Just different parts of insects. Hey, but that's the thing, though. When we look at in a few of the things I'm going to list below later on, you're going to find out that some people just eat the whole bug, okay?
I've actually eaten a whole bug.
Really?
I ate crickets.
So you've eaten crickets. More than just a part of a bug. You've eaten the entire
whole bug. Salt and vinegar crickets, because I lost a bet.
How was that?
Disgusting. The little legs, they just kind of stick in your throat.
Gross.
There's not enough water ever to wash those down.
I'd have to have something stronger than water. I'd be like, give me gallons of Coca-Cola. We're gonna flush this bad boy out. Ugh. Okay, so you've had the insect parts.
I've had the whole thing.
But have you had rodent poop?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, you have. You just don't necessarily know it. That is again, small amounts are only allowed, barely perceivable amounts. But yes,
I hope they test for that often.
I hope they do too. Mold, which that's gross because I thought that's why we have expiration dates.
Wait, isn't mold like penicillin though?
Well, yeah, you can make penicillin from things like mold, but yeah.
Okay.
Insect heads, which I don't know why that's differentiated from insect parts, but it is. But I did see one. I'll give you one because I did look up this one in fig paste. Because here's the thing: a lot of wasps.
Do not ruin my fig Newtons.
I'm sorry, I'm about to. Wasps love figs, and so when you're a fig farmer, you're just going to deal with wasps. That's just how it is. So you can have 13 insect heads in 100 grams of fig paste, and it still passes the inspection. So those little crunchy things that you when you're eating your fig Newtons that might not be fig you're crunching on. Just saying.
Ah, snap, man! You just ruined my fig Newtons.
I'm just thinking all it does is add extra protein.
They're still good though.
Because they even allow mites and maggots, not mice, mites. Just want you to know.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Well, to a degree, they do allow rodent hair. So certain amounts of rodent hair. I remember like mac and cheese. Kraft has these guidelines of how much rodent hair can be in a mac and cheese.
Oh, please tell me that they
like
spot
6
test
or something like that can be in. Yeah, I mean it's just crazy to think about rodent hair.
And I'd like to see the guy on the assembly line. 1, 2. Oh, that's got 14 insect heads. We got to cancel this one.
Yep. Or you could be like, I'm just going to throw this one insect head away and it's all good
it's
still.
fine.
Now there's only 13, so keep on going. Anyway, so rodent hair, pits, which that makes sense. Like I've had olives with the pit still in it.
That's like the best one to have.
Yeah, like if you're going to have any of these. Although, honestly, an insect head won't break your tooth. A pit might. A pit might break your tooth. So.
True.
And then the last one is just classified as foreign matter.
Aww.
So the FDA, and this is again livescience.com, not me, says this. The FDA defines foreign matter as objectionable materials, including sticks, stones, which apparently can not only break your bones, but can also be in your food, burlap bagging. So and that makes sense because like coffee is stored in burlap bags. I get that. That's going to happen a little bit. You get some burlap lint. And then cigarette butts. Not sure how cigarette butts work into this whole thing. You
so
could just
Fred that's working on the food line, he can toss his cigarette butt into the tomato paste or whatever, and
yeah, it's still foreign matter is considered an aesthetic defect. So it's not considered unhealthy. It's just an aesthetic defect.
I would think a cigarette butt would be absolutely unhealthy.
You're getting a man's saliva. You're getting nicotine. It's just, whoa.
Not only does it not look pretty. Oh, man.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So, like, some foreign matter is allowed in mace, which is a spice, whole black or white pepper, and sesame seeds. So, it's not like every food has this. It's just like certain spices they allow. Apparently, you don't know if that's black pepper or ashes. You just never can tell, I guess.
Oh, man.
All right, so we're going to move on from that one.
Thank you.
This one's for the vegans and vegetarians out there.
Wait, we're vegetarians.
We're vegetarians. And I knew this one, so this one didn't surprise me. But there are certain foods you may not know that contain animal parts and animal byproducts. So this, for quite a bit, I'm going to be talking about someone named Jane Langill, Langill, and it's Lane. Jane, did I say Lane? I'm sorry. So here's the thing.
She has a website.
Most of this information I got from a website called Jane Langill or Langill.com. Jane is her first name, Langille. And she's a medical and health writer in Ontario. So a lot of her stats come from Canada, but our regulations are very similar to Canada's.
Got it.
And I definitely know the first one. Gelatin.
So how is Jane going to ruin vegetarian?
Do you like Jell-O? Marshmallows? Gummy bears?
I don't enjoy... gummy bears.
Okay, so technically those are not vegetarian. Yeah, so gelatin, anything that has gelatin in it is...
Oh, it's made from bone.
Yes, plus. So gelatin can be gotten from bones, which is true. Also can be gotten from like cattle hides or pork skin too.
Wait a minute.
Yes, pork skin, you heard.
Waddles could be in my gummy bears?
Yep, so could your leather jacket, apparently.
Waddles skin.
No, waddles is never going to be in your gummy bears because you're not eating them.
Pig skin could be in marshmallows.
I eat pork rinds. Or I used to when I wasn't vegetarian, so it doesn't bother me. Yeah. So yeah, you could have leather in your yeah. So it's all like obviously it's rendered way down to where there's very little representation of the original item, but yeah.
Wow.
Now most vegetarians and vegans know that. They're like, I don't eat marshmallows because they're not vegetarian. I don't eat Jello or gummy bears. They do make vegetarian gummy bears though, just so you know.
Oh, good.
But most don't know. Most don't know some of the other ones I'm about to talk to. Now, we're vegetarians, so we don't eat meat, and it's not like a moral choice. It's not like meat is murder. It's just if you've read my blog on the Who Is This Caleb, you realize that I don't eat it because meat is murder on my digestive system. But that's the only reason why I feel better when I eat vegetation. That's just how I am. So it has nothing to do with a moral decision. But there are people out there who, for moral reasons, will not eat meat. And then vegans take another step further. They basically will not want to exploit animals in any way.
Right.
So they won't eat eggs. They won't eat dairy. They won't even eat honey because honey comes from a bee, and so that would be exploiting them. Which, if you're interested about honey, the freaky fact about that is most of us know this, but you may not. It's primarily made of nectar and bee vomit. So it's like they might be making a good choice on refraining from
bee vomit.
Bee vomit, yeah. So like you're putting bee vomit in your tea whenever you sweeten your tea with honey, and most people know that.
Little toast and bee vomit.
But what they don't know, and the vegans might be surprised to hear this, is there's also animal byproducts and things they might find themselves eating, and I would dare say they find themselves eating a lot of on one of the things.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of confectioner's glaze?
Yeah.
So confectioner's glaze, also called shellac. Did you know that?
Wait, like shellac on like woodworking and...
Yeah, it's kind of the similar. They're derived from the same thing, and it is a derivative of an excrement of the lac beetle. So the beetle poops. It's the female beetle. I don't know what she has that the male beetle doesn't have, but apparently she makes glossier poop.
Oh, gross.
So the female beetle excretes. They harvest it. And they obviously it's not like they're just throwing poo on the food and then but what they do is so they I gotta read this because I don't want to get it wrong. I'm gonna blame Jane Lynn Gill, not myself, because this is what she wrote. But it's made from a resin excreted by the female lac beetle indigenous to India and Thailand. The resin is produced into flakes, dissolved in denatured alcohol, and made liquid shellac, and then sprayed on food products or used to make lacquer for hardwood floors and furniture. Shellac is also sprayed on grocery store apples to make them shiny and keep them fresh in the store.
My apple has been sprayed with female beetle poo.
Pretty much, yeah. So here's the thing. Whenever you go pick apples off of a tree and you polish them on your shirt or
They're
whatever.
Shiny.
Yes. That's because honestly, it's funny. They're shiny because they haven't been washed yet. But to be able to sell produce in stores, it has to go through a washing process. Well, that washing process removes that natural shine apples have. So to give it back, they spray it with shellac, and the shellac, which of course is derived from
beetle
poo.
Female beetle poo.
Yeah. So beetles are exploited to make apples glossy. So, and my question is that a violation of a vegan conscience? Because they say they do not, use animal byproducts or exploit. That's why they don't have honey. So, are they, if they eat apples, are they violating their own vegan code of ethics? But that's just, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it's just food for thought, literal food for thought to think about. Like I ate an apple yesterday.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, because a beetle's gonna do what a beetle does.
Well, a honeybee does what a honeybee does, and just the fact that we're harvesting it is why the vegans say that's wrong. And so, do we care enough about this lac beetle to say, hey, we can't harvest their poo?
I feel bad for the poor person that has to harvest the poo, though.
Yeah,
they just crawl around.
They have the world's tiniest pooper scooper, and they're just walking around behind it all day long. Come on. Do your numbers.
Oh, man.
All right. Okay, that's not like the only buggy part or the only buggy thing that's sneaking its way into our foods. So have you ever had strawberry or raspberry yogurt? And you can say yes because I know you have. We both have.
You can say yes because I know you have.
You want to know where the color comes from?
The strawberries and the raspberries.
Apparently that's not potent enough, which I think raspberries would make, but apparently they do not make it red enough. So they actually have to get the red from something else. And if your yogurt says, strawberries, raspberries, natural color. That natural color might come from something called carmine, Carmine, and that carmine is actually basically kind of ground up bugs. The natural color,
Whoa.
made from the dried bodies of the female cochineal insects from South America or Mexico. Cochineal extract has been used for thousands of years to dye fabrics, but today is primarily used for food or cosmetic coloring. So your lipstick might also be dried up bug carcasses.
And why is it only the female? The female beetle poop, the female bug coloring.
I don't know. It's
what?
I don't. These are things that I don't
and
know.
It's
we
natural
can
flavoring.
Ask Jane Langgill at .com. Ask her. But there's other options for red. If you're like, I don't think I want to go the buggy route, you can go the petroleum route. Red 40 has petroleum in it.
Like the oil I
guess,
put
yeah,
in my car?
Yeah, it's like, but it is, it's also called Allura Red, which sounds like a lipstick.
That sounds like it would be made by Maybelline.
But yeah, so red 40 is petroleum based, and it's used in all sorts of things from jams to jellies, fruit juice concentrates, ice cream, pickles, relishes, ketchup, of course. And but some people actually experience allergic reactions to that. And you and I know that when we were kids pastors, we would hear parents talk about red dye being an issue for their kid, causing them to be hyperactive and all that. Now, while companies like the Canadian version of the FDA and FDA are aware that people could have a reaction to it, they don't consider it a threat enough to make companies pull it out. So it's kind of like peanuts. They're not going to ban peanut butter because people are allergic, but they do have to put may contain peanuts. Right. So red dye, red 40 is like, I have a drink mix thing in my cabinet that has red 40 in it, but they have to say, isn't that crazy?
So you're either coloring your food with chemicals or you're coloring it with bug parts.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
No, that's not true. Nowadays they have like beet juice for coloring. They use a lot of beet juice. That's one of the things I liked about Smarties, which is probably one of my favorite candies in the world, but not the Smarties in America, which taste like little bits of chalk, but the Smarties that are like a better than M&M.
Oh, I did love Smarties.
They are so good, and you can find them in Canada and Mexico and in Europe, but not here in America. But those are actually made. They're natural colored, with juice coloring, like beet juice and things like that.
Yes, that was so good.
They're better than M&Ms. Speaking of M&Ms, actually, and red dye, kind of nice segue. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
But do you remember in 1985 the red M&M making a comeback?
No.
Okay, so it was off the shelf. Now they still sold M&Ms, but the reds were pulled from the M&Ms for over a decade, nearly a decade.
Why were they pulled?
Well, it was rumored, and this actually stems back into the 50s and 60s, where people were finding that red dye was causing some issues. Now, red dye number 2 was the dye that was causing that. And so that actually has since been banned by the FDA, even though they really haven't been able to prove necessarily that it's causing cancers and things like that, because the testing was done horribly. But the FDA, just to play it safe, said we're going to ban red number 2.
That's good.
Better safe than sorry, according to the FDA. I get that. Now, M&M's didn't even use red number 2. They actually used good old Allura Red 40 is what M&M used. But in order to make sure that, just to ease the minds of its customers, and obviously to continue to be able to sell M&M's, they got rid of red altogether, just to make sure people are like, no, our M&M's are safe. You will not get cancer from our M&M's because we're pulling out the red. And later on, they put it back, and I think it is red 40 again. But yeah, so there you go. M&M's.
Looking out for their customers.
Hey, do you remember the M&M phrase, melts in your mouth?
Not in your hand. And I always get nervous when you say, do you remember the phrase? Because I panic and think.
You don't like my quiz times?
I'm not going to remember.
Melts in your mouth, not in your hands. That was like the thing. Now, here's the thing. Anytime you ever hold them, the chocolate doesn't melt. But do you ever notice your hands turn the color of the M&Ms? Like you have this menagerie of color on your hand after it's...
Well, you're not supposed to hold them for an hour.
They aren't supposed to be held that long.
You eat them really quickly.
But that was actually the reason why M&Ms were made.
So they wouldn't melt in your hand.
So they wouldn't melt. Now, there's 2 theories why M&Ms are why they came up with M&Ms, why they are the way they are. Encyclopedia.com, I'm going to shift the blame to them again. They say there's 2 theories. First of all, in the 1930s, during the Spanish Civil War, the soldiers who were fighting, because obviously it gets hot out in the battlefield and gets hot in warmer climates, and so they suggested that the candy be coated in like some sugar coating because they found out that that kept it from melting in their pockets and in their bags and stuff. Is if they put like the sugary coating on the chocolate, it wouldn't melt.
Smart. And you know, if you're gonna do something terrible like go to war, you need that.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Now the other theory is, and I believe this to be true, and I believe that maybe both of these things are true. But the M&M Mars Company, they were noticing that during the summer their chocolate sales were decreasing. Why?
Because it's hot out.
Because it melts in the summertime. You know, this is before air conditioning was a big thing. So if you have chocolate even sitting in your house, it's going to be a puddle. But you know, before you can get to eat it, if you don't have air conditioning in your house, it is sad. And so, in an effort to continue their sales throughout the summer, they invented M&Ms to keep them. So they possibly took the war technology, turned it into consumer goods. But here's the cool thing, though: whenever America went to World War II, so in 1942, the M&M was actually one of the things that went with them. In part, it made part of the service rations for World War II. Isn't that crazy? So M&Ms were actually a wartime candy because the soldiers wouldn't get all messy. I mean, can you imagine like trying to pull a trigger or, you know, like run and
chocolate
having
on your fingers.
So speaking of chocolate and war, I've got another one for you.
Okay.
Have you ever had a Three Musketeer?
Yes.
What flavor is it?
Chocolate.
Okay, did you know that at one time it had more than one flavor?
Because you told me in the grocery store last week.
That's true. I was like, why didn't I save it for the podcast? But yeah, Three Musketeers had what flavors?
Chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. It was the Neapolitan of candy.
That's right. It was like the Neapolitan. That's why they called it Three Musketeers at the time, because it came in 3 flavors in one pack. So it was like you get 3 candy bars in one pack.
I wish they did that again. I would like to try a vanilla one.
I would love to try the strawberry one. I think that'd be great. Maybe maybe they're making them again. If not, I'd love for them to start making the 3-pack again, like for some sort of nostalgia. But again, because of World War II, and my theory is, I mean, they were saying it was because, you know, and it did happen. There was sugar rationing going on in the United States during the war. And so in order to save money, they went down to one flavor. I also think they probably reallocated some of that money into M&Ms because it made more sense to go with the M&M route during World War II. And so that's just personal theory. I cannot confirm nor deny it. Leaf.tv is where I found that information about Three Musketeers. So there you go.
Good stuff.
And yeah, that's so cool. But, you know, that's good stuff. You're right. That's good stuff. But we're not here for the good stuff. We're here for the freaky stuff. And it's time. Freaky foods of the world. Are you ready?
Dun, dun.
All right, first of all, we're going to hear some gross foods. Please, you know, don't judge. And the reason why I say don't judge, because it's like, well, I'm going to judge. Can't believe they would eat that thing. I did that one time. And so if you're a missionary or you're a missionary kid, you probably already have this mindset because this happened to me when I was a missionary. And I was talking to a friend who was a Samoan, but he was married to a woman from the Philippines. And I was like, well, don't they eat like dogs and cats in the Philippines? And he's like, yeah, occasionally that happens. And I'm like, how can they do that? And he's like, how can you in America eat rabbit? And I'm like, touche, because I've eaten rabbit. I've eaten squirrel. And so I'm like, who am I to say anything?
You've eaten squirrel?
I've eaten squirrel. Ugh, not that good.
Not good.
Really dark and gamey, and maybe it wasn't prepared right. I bet someone listening to this is probably like, man, if you had my squirrel stew, it'd be. But yeah, I didn't like it. Rabbit's okay, but we do in America. We have our foods that we're okay with eating this, and like we eat cow, obviously, and there are some cultures that are like that is offensive to eat cow. We eat pork, and there's some cultures and religions that are like that is offensive, and I don't eat pork, obviously, because Okay, I don't eat much pork. I'm not going to lie. I've had bacon in my life, and I've had bacon this year probably. But I don't eat a lot of meat, as we talked about earlier. I choose not to. But we're going to get into some of the crazy kind of foods of the world. And
I'm ready.
Are you ready? And the first one we've heard of, we talked about it before. It's called Kopi Luwak, or civet coffee.
Oh, yes, I've heard of this. This is another job I don't think I want. It's where the little cute animal.
The palm civet.
But it eats the coffee flower, and then it poos out the coffee bean. And
it eats the coffee berry, but yes.
And then some poor person has to dig through the excrement to find the
coffee bean. Am I wrong
bean.
here? Or is there a lot of poo going in our food? A little too much, I think.
Yeah.
We allow rodent droppings by the FDA. We use it to make our food glossy.
Yeah.
And then but people are paying like $300 a pound for that coffee.
Okay, so someone sits you down and says, "Hey, Caleb, here is a cup of poo coffee. Here you go. Would you drink it?"
Do I have the option to take the cash value instead?
No.
I would probably drink it. Just to say I have. That's the thing is I can say I've done that. I've had poo coffee.
I think I'd have to.
I mean, I've already had coffee that tastes like poo, so why not have some poo coffee? Sorry. I mean, I make my own coffee. Sometimes I don't do a good job. But no, yeah, I would do it just to say I've done it.
Yeah, I'd have
You probably wouldn't, would you?
I'd have to pause for the
Lots of cream and sugar.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not poo. It's... Yeah,
Okay.
I would try it.
How about this one? Escargot. You know what that one is?
That's... snails.
Yeah, it's snails. Basically, it's like pulled out of the shell, ground up, made with seasoning, put it back in the shell. Big in France, escargot. We had some friends that went to France over the summer.
It looks like snot, though.
Yeah, not great. Okay, how about this one? And this one I've never heard of. Surströmming. It's Swedish.
You sound like a bodybuilder.
Mm.
I'm working on my surströmming muscles.
Man,
What is
I
it?
pulled my surströmming the other day. It's a fermented Baltic herring. So it's a canned fish. Now canned fish is something. We have sardines here in America. We have pickled herring even here in America. But this particular kind was in a recent Japanese study. It was found out that surströmming releases the most putrid odor of any food in the world. So this is the most disgusting smelling food in the world.
And it's banned in every school.
Yeah, I can imagine like kids in Swedish schools are like, "Oh, you have surströmming, yum, that's great." And the teacher's like, "Put that away."
Does it taste good?
I don't know.
Can people
I don't know
actually get past the smell to eat it?
If it's still being made today, it's got to be something good about it.
Huh.
By the way, I'm getting all these from 3 different websites: oola.com, OOLA, hostelworld.com, which I guess Hostel World, if you're going to be traveling, they want you to know about the kind of crazy foods you're going to be eating, and then healthprep.com. So they're kind of a mixture in there. But yeah, that one's a little weird. Worst smelling food on the planet.
Interesting.
How about balut?
What's that?
You've heard of it because we've had friends that talk about it. When we were overseas, we heard about it. But it is made by boiling a live fertilized duck embryo. So you boil the egg with the duck embryo. And then whenever you open it up, you can even see you can see feathers.
That makes me sad.
It's just gross. And it's like you see the beak. And all that.
Now I want to cry.
I'm sorry. How about kasu marsu? Kasu marsu?
Bless you?
Sheep's milk cheese. That doesn't sound bad. Sheep's milk cheese.
Why is it on your list then?
Well, because it actually is, they encourage insects to land on it and plant their larvae into the cheese, and they eat the cheese and digest the cheese, and then you eat
More
with
poo cheese!
More poo food. I mean, what is the world's interest in eating poo food?
I don't know.
Something's wrong. Something ain't right. Okay, how about this one? Century eggs.
No.
You've heard of those?
Yeah.
I can't remember if I tried it and just wiped the memory out, or if I just couldn't get past the smell. But basically, it's an egg, and you can bury them underground, or they're just like they're soaked in salt and clay. So it's kind of like this process that pretty much ferments the egg. So it's a regular egg. There's no baby duck in it, but it's a regular egg. But then like the yolk turns like a dark green or gray, and then the white becomes gelatinous. So it's almost like its own hard boiledness because of it, and it becomes gelatinous and kind of brown looking.
Oh my
And I remember
word.
it just kind of had like a real strong, almost like a vinegary type.
People eat
smell.
it?
Yeah, I have friends eating it, and like they were visiting us here in America, and somehow I think one of our Asian stores sells them, but
But interestingly enough, that's not the world's stinkiest food.
No, and there's actually lots of foods that are yuckier than that, even when you think about it. But it's a Chinese delicacy. It doesn't take a century to make, but it takes several weeks to a month to make. So.
Huh.
All right, how about this one? And I saw this one in a Walmart in our town. Chicken feet.
Nope.
Remember I sent a picture of that? I'm
Yep.
like, what? Chicken feet? But it's like big everywhere from
Nope.
Russia to the Philippines. It's a big thing. They
It really is just little
just the feet, just the claws, there's no leg meat or anything.
No.
The other thing, well, what about pickled pig's feet? You see that in Walmart too.
No.
Just today alone, I've seen Waddles' feet. Just today alone, she tracked things into our bed that apparently make food lists, a lot of. Somehow she managed to track some of that into our bed today.
There was poo.
Yes. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going to eat pickled pig's feet. No.
Not
Nope.
enough. Not enough sanitizer in the world.
Okay, how about bird's nest soup? You heard of that one?
I have heard of that one, but I don't know what it is.
It's literally a bird's nest. It's a bird called swiftlet, and it's apparently a clean enough nest. In my mind, I'm like, there's not enough.
They
nest
eat the nest?
Yeah, so they use the bird uses its saliva to make the nests, and so they make it like there's 3 different color variations. They make it in limestone walls. And then once they're finished with it, people harvest the nest. So they don't kick the birds out, but once the birds are done, they harvest the nest.
Okay, legit, they're eating the nest, not the birds.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me? We saw The Hobbit the other day with Radagast in it, and he's got the bird nest in his hat.
Yes.
But what is coming out of the bird's nest?
The poo.
Bird poo. And I'm like, there's no way to keep that out of the nest. So whenever they're eating bird nest soup, surely they're eating more than... Maybe this is why the FDA allows it. They're just like, it's just going to happen.
It's too much. We can't get rid of it.
People are going to eat it. How about haggis?
Oh, I've heard of haggis.
Yeah. It's kind of like a pudding made of sheep's hearts, lungs, livers, oats, onions, and it's cooked and served in a sheep's stomach. So big in Scotland and like the British Isles and things like that. Haggis.
Man. And I've been so trained that like you eat what you're offered if you're
a missionary, you don't want to
house.
offend people, so you eat what they offer you.
But I would struggle with that one.
I have a funny story. My dad was a missionary. And then he went to this other island. So it wasn't the island we lived on. We lived on American Samoa, and he went over to Western Samoa, which is still, it's just a few miles away, but it's its own sovereign nation. And he went over there, and typically the guests of honor at certain banquets would receive a cooked bat. And that was like the guests of honor got that.
Yummy.
And he was a pastor, and he was basically the guest of honor at this dinner. And they knew that. They knew, like... And they were like prepping him. They're like, listen, you cannot offend these people. Because he was like with a lot of chiefs and like higher up people in the community. And they're like, if they feed you something, you have to eat it. It's just no way around it. And so he was in his mind mentally preparing. And he's like, okay, I'm going to eat this bat. If they get, and I've seen the bats in Samoa. They're called flying foxes. They're not just bats. They're not like the little ones in the States or in Missouri. They're massive. And they have these giant leathery wings. They're like what horror movies are made of, that kind of bat. And so they bring him out this dish and it's covered up. And they set it right in front of him.
I would be freaking out.
Pull the cloth off of it and it was a chocolate cake. Because they knew they were like building it up in his mind. They made him think this is what was gonna. It was a total practical joke, and they're like, "If you get a bat, they're gonna make you eat the bat."
Good on them. That's a good joke.
It was so funny, and then it turned out to be cake, and they all had a laugh. It was funny. And my dad ate it because he didn't want to offend.
Oh, of course, you gotta eat the cake.
Yeah, or what about would you eat Vegemite? Now I've heard a lot about that. Our son's big into like Australia. He loves Australia. He wants to go there someday, and a big thing in Australia is Vegemite.
What is Vegemite?
Essentially, it's a sandwich spread or a cracker spread, and it's made from brewer's yeast. And so it's like a real strong, it's like a real salty, a little bit bitter spread. And a lot of people that try it are like, this is the worst thing on the planet. What they fail to realize is with Vegemite, you're supposed to spread it really thin. You only use a little bit. A little goes a long way with the Vegemite, and then that's why. But yeah, Australians love it.
I've heard it. You either love it or hate it. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, so there's like a UK version called Marmite, and so it's it's a sandwich spread, but it's one of those that Americans are like, well, I'm gonna try it like I do my mayonnaise, and they slather it on there, and that's just wrong. You don't do that with Vegemite, so you got to make sure you're. You notice when I imitate Americans, we all sound like we're cowboys or something. I'm an American. I don't talk like that, but whenever I imitate my own people, I'm like, we're gonna do this. I grew up in the Ozarks. I'm sorry.
Nice.
Speaking of foods that hillbillies eat, Rocky Mountain oysters. You know what that one is, don't you?
I think I know what that is.
You don't want to know. Okay, so this one is kind of like...
It's not oysters.
No, it's not oysters. It is a part of the male goat or cow or pig. Yeah. Yes. We're gonna end there. But it's big. People do. They'll have festivals dedicated to them. People try. Yeah. I hear it's a bit nutty, but other than that,
come on.
People like them. It's enough that people have festivals in honor of them. So I guess apparently Rocky Mountain oysters.
Nope, hard pass.
What about
hard pass?
Okay, what about wasp crackers?
Wasp?
Yeah, they're from Japan. Just think of a chocolate chip cookie, but instead of a chocolate chip, it's wasps.
So basically, it's the Japanese version of a Fig Newton.
Very good. Except without the fig. They just keep the wasp parts.
Well, I like...
If there are over 13 figs in that cookie, they get rid of it. They get rid of it.
Sure, I'd try it because I enjoy Fig Newton. So I either like figs or I really like wasps.
You may like wasp. Last one. A-ping. A-P-I-N-G. It sounds fun, doesn't it?
It sounds like a bad word.
A-ping. It's like you bleeping yourself out.
Yeah. What is it?
So if you're squeamish around spiders, you probably don't like this.
Oh.
But it is like a Cambodian delicacy. It's a species of tarantula that is fried and then served on a stick. It's like a spider sickle or a spider kebab.
I hate spiders. But the fried on a stick spider can't possibly hurt me because there's no way a spider could survive that.
Yeah, but you're still eating a spider. What, you'd never eat a spider?
No. I mean, I don't think so.
Well, then you might want to buckle up for our last freaky food fact.
No.
Yeah. Human beings, that would be you and me, according to howstuffworks.com.
Thanks for qualifying. I was confused.
You may not know this, but you're human. That eats a lot of poo, apparently.
Apparently.
Anyway, human beings swallow an average of 8 spiders a year while they're sleeping.
No. What? No.
I'm wondering how they're getting the data for this. I mean, are they like tracking spiders and like, whoop, that one got eaten, that one got eaten.
What?
Yeah. So, which I don't know how the averages work, because that, according to howstuffworks.com, they said the average person swallows 52 spiders over the course of a lifetime. That doesn't mean they're living that long then. If they're only doing 8 a year. So, isn't that crazy?
Oof. Really? 8 spiders a year when I'm sleeping?
Yep.
And okay, I'm sorry, I don't like spiders, but what kind of stupid spider thinks, oh, this seems nice. Let's check out this hole that has teeth.
This comfy little cave, it feels so warm and it's got airflow.
Blech.
Making a funny noise.
It's making a funny noise. Although now I'm imagining
smells like they've been eating poo. I don't know.
I'm imagining the cartoon though, where like the cartoon guy is snoring, and then like when he breathes out, the little spider goes woo, and then he sucks back in. The little spider comes back in.
Maybe. Well, that's it. That's all the freaky food fact. There's a lot more out there. I had to stop because we are way over time, but I was really excited to talk about our freaky food facts and to hear your reactions. And yeah, there's a lot of things in our food that we don't like. And I'm glad I'm a vegetarian, but that doesn't really help me because
I'm gonna wash my apples a lot.
I'm gonna wash my apples more.
Yeah.
So it hasn't killed me yet, though. I'm doing all right. Doing all right. That's what matters. Okay, so let's bring it back to what would you do? What is the craziest thing? I guess it's more what have you done? What's the craziest thing you've ever eaten? And so we're gonna post that on our webpage, and you put us what you've eaten. So like I said, I know a lot of missionaries that have eaten crazy things, and some of them I actually didn't put in this because I was like, that's too much. Even though I did put in Rocky Mountain oysters. But anyway, so what's the craziest thing you've eaten? And then, of course, keep following us on social media at Camptown Media is our social media outlet for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Love to hear from you. Love to chat with you about things. Love to see what kind of crazy foods you like. And but I think that's it. I'm getting hungry, actually. Believe it or not, I'm getting hungry. Which after hearing about all that food, why am I hungry? I don't know, but it's time for us to go.
That's right. Hey, like and share, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
See ya.